Welcome back. Today I'll show implementing a validation logic in your .NET MAUI application. Before we go, I need to make a showcase to show how it works. I try to hit submit button. Validation will be displayed in the UI, and when you fill it, they will go. This is a simple validation logic. I will use UraniumUI to implement this validation logic. If you don't know how to install it in your MAUI application, you can watch the first video, which is getting started with UraniumUI. Then come back this video and continue watching. So let's get started with .NET MAUI application with UraniumUI pre-installed. Let's run it. Before we go, I just made my font size really huge to make it visible for you. Maybe it is too much, I'm not sure. I think that is better. Okay, when I run my application, I'll see it. This is an empty application. We will start implementing from the beginning. Let's navigate back to main page here. I will make it real bigger. Okay. I'll clear everything from here and I'll add text field first. Before we go, I want to show the documentation. If you visit documentation of UraniumUI and navigate to material validation, you can see there's a use case and it describes how to use it. Validations isn't a feature of UraniumUI. Validation is a feature of InputKit. So you can see, you can see it used together with form view. So this is InputKit. This is a different project, but it is used by UraniumUI. So you don't have to care about it. It is already included in your application. So I will add this namespace to my application to use existing validations from InputKit. Or let's continue here. I'll add first and continue later. Yeah. And then you can see validations are included in this namespace. You can find this namespace in documentation too and copy and add your page. Okay, now we are ready. I want to add a text field here. This is, let's say, username. You have to add your username here. And when I run it, maybe debugging is better. We can use hot reload. I'll make it always top. I couldn't do it. Now it is working. Yeah, I need some padding to my page. Yeah, that's better. This is a simple text field and I can type something in it, but I want to add validation this text field. You can directly add validations inside your text field or any other input element. So let's say this is minimum length should be, for example, let's say 6. When you add this validation will automatically shown and says you have to type here at least 6 characters. After doing that, the validation is gone. This is much easy. For example, you can add a required validation. This field may be required, but I cannot see required validation until I delete everything. If I open this page from 0, I cannot see any validation. Even I cannot see this required validation. So I need a form view to trigger my validations when user try to submit. So I will cover my input with form view from input namespace. When I do that, I need to create a submit button. It can be a regular button, it can be any view that you want to use. I'll create a default MAUI button here. Let's say text is submit. Also, I'll add a spacing here because there is no spacing between them. Spacing, I think 12 is enough. Yeah. I added a button submit, but it doesn't work right now because there is no command, there is no event. We didn't do anything. We will declare it as submit button. Form view dot is submit button true. When you do that, the form view automatically finds it and use it as submit button. Let's start from 0. Okay, my text field is required right now, but I cannot see anything. When I try to hit submit button, you can see the validations are shown. So how to handle a valid operation? You can bind here. You can bind submit command from your view model. So this command will not be executed until this form is valid. So this is really useful pattern to build your input forms. So the user cannot execute this command until this form is valid. I'll show with a view model, but this is the concept. Let's add a couple of them more. This is username and another text field for password. So I will use this pattern here. And is password true? And I can add validation for minimum length should be 8. Also, I can add some other validation like should contain, what is it? I can add regex validation here. I can add numeric validation here. I can add any of predefined validations, or I can add a regex validation, or I can build my own validation here. So let's say this is also required. When I hit the button, you can see all the validations are shown. So I built my validation. Where is it? We can navigate to documentation here. Where is my documentation? That's text view. Here, text field. I'll add an attachment for my password here. I'll add an attachment for password in my application to make it fancier. Okay, you can see I have a password input here and I have a hide and show extension here. Okay, now that is working. So everything is completed, but what happens when I submit this button, submit this form? Let's create a view model for it. Let's say view models. This is main page. I'll call it main page view model. I'll stop my debugging. This is a regular class. It doesn't matter what it is. I'll add a username here. And I'll add a password here. Yeah, exactly. And I'll add another property for command. It doesn't matter if they are observable or not, because I will use only one-time binding to source. So let's say submit command. I'll create a constructor and I'll add my submit command here. Sorry, new command. I'll directly execute my command here. Maybe we can call. It's not a good approach. I will call Let's use that extension. I don't suggest that. I suggest using iDialog service from UraniumUI, but I'll go with that. This is not topic of today. Submitted successfully. Let's say okay. I'll bind this V model to my page, content page, not resources, binding context. Sorry, C is uppercase, yeah. And I'll add a new XML namespace for my V models. XML namespace, let's say VM and V models, yeah. I'll add my V model here. Isn't it public? Yeah, it is public. Okay. Is there a typo? No. Okay, when I do that, I can bind my text from my V model. I'll move it from here, say username here, and I'll bind password here. Now I can bind my submit command from my V model. And when I run it, I'll see my submit command will be executed only this form is valid. I'm waiting, but is there a problem? No. Okay, I know there's no setter here. There's no also observable property or observable attribute or anything else because we don't need that. The value will come here. We don't update UI from here, at least for this example. Okay, I think it's working right now. I'll make it a little bit bigger. Yeah. I add a breakpoint here. Okay, when I try to submit, my command isn't executed. When I met the requirements, now my command is executed. You can see. This is a simple and easiest way to apply validations in your application. So V model doesn't know anything about the validation, and you don't have to apply your validation in your V model. V model only manages the data. It doesn't know anything about validation. So this is a clean approach. All the validations is here. Maybe you want to use data annotations. It is possible. Sorry. The core and validations. You may want to use data annotations, data annotation attributes like that, required email address and minimum length or anything else. Yes, it is possible, but you have to install another package to use that. Let's install this package to our application. Manage NuGet packages. And I add this package to my project. Yeah, with the latest version. After installing it, we will use this namespace to use a special binding, which is validation binding. We will use this instead of binding because we need to access the property and read the attributes of that property and apply validations. So this is mandatory. You have to use this validation binding instead of binding or in this approach. So let's copy this namespace and go back our page. I added this namespace from new assembly. It says it cannot find, but it will find after it restored. So I'll remove all the validations from the page, XAML page. I just removed all of them and use validation binding here and for here. When I do that, it will automatically find and use data annotations. Let's add some data annotation attributes in our view model. Let's say this is required and this is also, what can we use here? Maybe minimum length. Let's say 5. This is also required. Minimum length, let's say it is 8. And what can we use? It's not email address, but you can use this attribute in your own. So in that case, when I run my application, I will see these validations will run. Okay, I'm waiting. Also for integer fields, you can use minimum and maximum or whatever you want. Also, you can build your own validations by implementing iValidation interface. To see that, you can visit InputKit validations documentation here, and you can read that documentation. They are predefined validations. You can use them without implementing anything in the XAML page. And if you want to implement your own custom validation logic, you can create a new class and implement iValidation and use that newly created class in the XAML. So that's it. You can create your own validations or use existing ones, but mostly a regex validation covers all the states. But if it doesn't cover in your scenario, you can create your own validation like that and use it in XAML page. So let's go back our application. Yeah. Now you can see required validation still works. When I try to type something, minimum length validation is appeared here. So they are not shown at the same time. Hey, yeah, they are shown at the same time here. But you can see when I delete everything and the errors still visible, you can use reset button for that if you want to. If you want to let user clear that validations and clear the form, you can use another button and let's call it reset, and you can use is reset button true for form view. So form view will find that button and use it as reset button. But I will run it again. Probably the hard reload cannot recognize it. Maybe I can use a different style for it. Style class, let's say text button. Sorry, it is not visible here. Yeah. But yeah, hard reload cannot read the style class. Okay, I'll restart it. Okay. When I try to submit and I solve some errors here and I type and delete and yeah, there are a lot of errors, but I want to reset this form. When I hit the reset button, everything is gone and the form is reset. So you can use those pre-built buttons and you can define some buttons as submit button and some buttons as reset button. And you may ask, should it be button? No, you can use image button or you can use any other element as submit button or reset button. or you can use image button, or you can use anything else. Maybe you may want to use button view from material. Yeah, that's possible. You can use any view with a submit button, but that view should support gesture recognizers. If that view cannot be tapped with tap gesture recognizer, so that cannot be a submit button for form view because it cannot get interactions. But in .NET MAUI, most of components support tap gesture recognizer. So yes, you can use most of components, at even a box view. So let's create a custom validation in another example. I'll create a new, let's say, must contain letter A validation. I'll make it public, and I implement I validation from InputKit namespace. You can see InputKit shared validations. When I implement it, it implements automatically a message and a validate method which takes the object. So I want my object a string. So let's check if it is a string. Let's say it is text, and when it is text, return the text if contains letter A, but it can be uppercase, it can be lowercase. I'll pass a string comparison with invariant culture and ignore case. And then I want to return as false by default instead of throwing exception. So I can define a default message here, or I can leave it to user. Maybe we can add a default message here. Let's say the input should contain letter A. This is default message. And I will use that class. Sorry, there's a typo here. Okay. I couldn't. Okay, I just changed it here. I'll use that class in this XAML page. Let's navigate back to our main page here. And I will add, sorry, there's still min-length validation here. Okay. I need to add a new namespace for my application root. Let's say it is root. And what is my application name? Validation app. Yeah, this is the root namespace. Okay. I'll call that validation from my root namespace. I'll add here root and must contain letter A validation. Also, I can pass message for it, but I don't need right now. But I'm not sure why the message isn't visible here, because we implemented it wrong. We can add a setter here, so we can set this message from the XAML page. Like that. Yeah, you can override message from here. Also, it is possible for pre-built validations. Let's say this is a required validation, and you may want to bind that validation message according to your culture, according to your localization. You can use here binding something else, something from your resource dictionary. Or you can just write here, this is required, or something else. You can override this message for any of validations. So I added a custom validation here. Also, I use validation binding from my vModule. So it gets the validations from my vModule and use my custom validation here. I can use the combination of two of them. It is not limits. It doesn't limit you. You can use this validation binding and you can still add some validation to your input. I'll run it again. Okay, we did it something wrong. It says button view. Okay. While I showing you, I broke something. Okay. Also, you can follow. Okay. Where is it? Okay, put it. Oh, sorry, I got it back. Where was it? I'll go once more back. Yeah. Okay, my application is running right now. Let's now get back here. We had a must contain letter A validation. So my password should contain letter A. Let's complete username first. Yeah. When I try to submit, it says the input should contain letter A. When I type something else, I will add numbers here. You can see I met rest of the requirements, but still it says your input should contain letter A. When I hit A button, yeah, everything is completed here. Also, I just removed password show height. Okay, I can show it I can show it like that. You can see there's no letter A, and when I add the letter A, and validation goes. Also, I can add the lowercase one. So you can create your custom validation with a C# code, or you can use data annotations, or you can use just pre-built validation from the validations namespace. You can see validation namespace, and you can use pre-built validations. So that's it. That is the validations in a nutshell. You can follow this documentation, not this one. Also, you can follow this one, of course, but this is the main documentation with material controls. Sorry. Okay. You can follow this example. Also, this example contains checkboxes and numeric inputs and dropdowns and something else. By the way, you can use this validation logic with all the inputs. Let's say we have a checkbox, but not the regular checkbox. Let's say material checkbox from UraniumUI. You can still add here required validation. So that checkbox needs to be checked to submit this form. Let's say I accept the terms. Okay. When I try to submit, you can see there's a warning here. You have to accept this one. Okay. Still I need to add here A. When I submit my button, yeah, you can see my command is executed right now. Okay. And I can reset my form again. Okay. You can see you can also validate your checkbox or radio button groups because when you add a new radio button group and none of radio buttons are checked, at least user should pick one of them. So you can use required validation for radio button group element. So you can check this documentation from the beginning. You can apply this implementation. Also, you can check the demo application on the GitHub. I'll show it on the GitHub. There is a complete example, which is Uranium app here in the demo folder. You can see there is a validation page in the pages. Okay, I found it. You can see this is a complete example, and it has also its own vModel, which is validation page vModel here. You can check this example and run this example, and you can learn more. So this is validations in a nutshell. I hope this is helpful, and see you later in the next session. I hope it is helpful, and thank you for watching.